All right, so let's talk about teams. I think teams have been something that is starting to get way out of control. I mean, I think for the last 5, 6, 7 years, you've seen everybody out there talking about teams, build a team, which is great if you do it the right way. The problem is you got brand new real estate agents getting in the business talking about, I want to build a team. They haven't even sold a house yet, and they're talking about building a team. And so I want to break down this existing, what I call ego-based team model versus what I call the production-based team model, and how I coach agents on how to scale their listing-based business. All right, so let's jump right into it. The first point I want to talk about is the truth. Why a lot of people, have this goal of starting a team. For most, not everybody, but for most of the time, people want to start a team. Here's the truth. Don't get mad at me. It's just reality. They want to start a team because they want to have other people do the hard work. They want to have other agents sell houses. They don't want to sell any houses. They want to get out of personal production because it's very difficult. They want to get out of personal production and still make money off of other people. That's why they want to start a team. If you get most people in an environment or a situation where they believe no one else will hear this, they'll tell you that's the real reason. Now, yes, they might give you some grandiose, vision statement or this, I guess they'll try to paint a picture of this huge why they're building this team. But the reality is they're trying to build a situation in real estate where they don't have to sell any houses or be in personal production and make money off of other agents. Now, there's a lot of issues with this model. And again, I call it the ego-based model. And here's why. Most of these teams look like this, all right? You've got the team leader at the top. Then they've got a whole bunch of, listen closely, buyers agents. We're going to talk a lot about that. They've got some administrative staff. And if the team is big enough, they probably have to have their own office space. Now, these teams, they look very, very sexy from an outsider's point of view. They're winning all of the awards. They're on top of all the charts with the Wall Street Journal. And they look very appealing. And so a lot of people look at that and say, wow, I want to do that. That seems very exciting. That seems very sexy. But when you lift up the hood or you pull back the curtain and you really start to break down the numbers, things don't look that great. I'm going to share that with you in just a second. So the problem with this model, the ego-based model, right? A bunch of different agents working for you. You can tell everybody, look at all these people that I have working for us. We're doing all of these transactions. The problem with this is it's very, very risky for the team leader. Why? Because of the fixed expenses to run these teams. So let me break this down. Okay, so follow along here. If you have any questions, put them down below. We can have a conversations afterwards. I'm going to use, for the sake of conversation, $7,000 average commission. Okay, so if your commissions are higher or lower, make sure you adjust that accordingly. So let's just look at your average team that's doing a couple hundred transactions, 200 transactions per year. Well, if you take 200 transactions and you simply times that by $7,000 in commission, you come up with $1.4 million in GCI. Now, for most people, when they hear that, they say, what's the problem, Brandon? That person just became a millionaire. Not so fast. Remember what I told you. The reason why I call them ego-based models is because these people that are running these teams can say, listen, I'm generating $1 million a year in income. Well, what about the expenses? So let's look at what it's going to take specifically to run a team doing 200 deals off the ego-centric model, which is having a bunch of agents where you buy them leads from the internet, mostly Zillow, Realtor.com, Facebook leads, and then Google pay-per-click on a KV Core, or maybe they're using a Real Geeks platform, or most of them use Boomtown, something like that, Commissions Inc. So here's what it looks like. So off the $1.4 million in GCI, 50% has to go to the agents, right? That's their commission. So that team leader is now left with a top line revenue of $700,000. Now off the $700,000, they're going to need about 10,000 leads per year based on a 2% average conversion ratio with internet leads. So they need 10,000 leads at a 2% conversion, which is 200 transactions, to run this business, to get to 200 transactions, all right? So 200, it's going to cost them on average about $20 per lead. So that's $200,000 just for leads, okay? That comes off that $700,000 number. Next, they're going to probably need 15 to 20 agents to handle and work correctly those 10,000 leads, okay? So they probably need 15, 16, 17 agents, somewhere right in that range to work these leads to get the conversion. I'm going to be conservative and say they probably need 2 to 3 administrative staff. It's probably more, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they probably need 2 to 3 staff members, each making on average about $40,000 per year, okay? So $40,000 times 3 staff members, got to subtract out their salaries, which is $120,000. Stay with me here. Next, we have to look at, okay, to have a team of 15 to 20 agents, couple of staff members, most likely, most of these teams have their own office space that they're paying for to house their team, okay? Now, in addition to office space, they have many more expenses, a lot more expenses to run the team. It's not just leads and just administrative staff. There's all kinds of different expenses they have. Typically, when I look at a P&L, the average expenses off of a team minus payroll, minus commissions is about 20% of the top line revenue. So in this case, it's about $140,000 in fixed expenses to run this team. So when you take $700,000, now stay with me, take $700,000 minus $200,000 in leads, minus $120,000 in payroll, minus $140,000 in expenses, leaves $240,000. But we're not done yet. Remember, in real estate, you got to pay taxes, right? So most of us are probably paying somewhere around 20% in taxes. That's just an average, which is going to net bottom line income for this person running this team. They started off with $1.4 million in GCI. That leaves them with $192,000. That's it. Less than $200,000 off of $1.4 million in GCI. It's a 14% profit margin. Not very good. Not a very good business model. And it takes this person, they have to keep paying for all these expenses to keep this monster alive. That's problem 1. Problem 2, so we can keep this video moving forward, is you end up training your competition. The reality is these agents aren't going to stay on this team forever because 1, all the leads you're buying them are all buyer leads from the internet. And so they're having to essentially cold call internet leads that you're buying off the internet. They're all buyers, which means they're working every night, all weekend, showing property, not with their family, not the schedule, not the freedom that they thought they were going to have when they got into real estate in the first place. And so they end up staying on teams on average about 18 to 24 months. Once they find and they discover to say, wait a minute, you're giving me these leads, okay, you're putting out your credit card. If I wanted these leads for myself without having to give up 50% of my income to the team leader, I could just give Zillow my credit card. I could just give Boomtown my credit card, and I'd be getting essentially the same thing I'm getting on a team, potentially, okay? So you end up training your competition. You spend all this time recruiting, hiring, training, developing these agents to make them successful, because in order to have a successful team, it's a constant work on skills, constant work on culture and leadership and developing these agents. Well, they're not going to stay with you forever, okay? The thought that they're going to stay with you forever is pretty naive. They're going to leave. And then when they're going to leave, all you've done, because these agents are right in your backyard, You've trained your competition. Okay, so now let me talk to you about the new model, the new team model, which is the model that I think all of us should be focused on, which is how teams started in the first place. It's how I coach all top listing agents when they get ready to scale their business to the next level. After they're doing 30, 40, 50 plus transactions per year, we start to build in leverage with this team model. It's how I coach all of these agents, and they follow this to a T. Now, let me put this in perspective. This is called the production-based team model, okay? It's very similar to how doctors and lawyers have their businesses set up. Let me give you an example. Let's take an orthopedic surgeon as an example. The orthopedic surgeon is only doing one thing as it relates to his or her business. What is it? It's the surgery. Everything else in their business has been leveraged out to people on their team, and their margins are super high. They make an incredible income, only having to do the most important thing in their business, which is the actual surgery. That's why this model works so well. So they have leveraged out the scheduling of the surgery, the billing of the insurance company, the prepping of the OR, the prepping of the patient, the post-op, right? Patient recovery, patient release, patient follow-up, and then patient post-op appointment. All of that has been leveraged out with team members on the doctor's team, okay? If the doctor was doing all of those tasks, they wouldn't be very successful. So they have a team, they have leverage so that the doctor can do the most important thing, the most dollar productive thing. The reason why people come to see the doctor in the first place, which is operating in that operating room, doing the actual surgery. So let's look at that and let's bring it back into real estate. So here is the team model that I think every listing agent should build as they get ready to scale their business. At the top, you have yourself, the team leader, the listing agent, okay? Underneath that listing agent, you have a full-time executive assistant. We're gonna break all this down in just a second. Then you have a full-time buyer's agent taking on all of the buyer leads that come into your business, okay? This is your business, it's your brand, you're building your personal business, okay? These people work in your production-based business. And then the third person on the team is a full-time inside sales agent that works with you in-house. We're not talking about someone that's outsourced in the Philippines, okay? We're talking about someone that's full-time that works with you on your team every single day as an inside sales agent. We'll break down the job descriptions in a second. So let's break down this financial model, okay? Based on my experience, this is how I personally grew my business. This is how now I'm coaching agents to scale their business to 100 plus transactions per year. This is how you do it, okay? So at 100 deals, we're gonna use $7,000 as our average commission, just like we did with the first ego-based model, okay? So on 100 deals at 7K, gets us to 700,000 in GCI. That's our top line revenue number, okay? So the typical split, how we look at this with a buyer's agent and you as a full-time solely focused on getting listings, a nice well-rounded business is typically a 65-35 split, meaning 65% of the business comes from listings sold, 35 comes from buyers, okay? This is a nice, healthy business model split. And here's the key thing with this model. You're not buying leads, okay? It's all prospecting based on your ability to use your skills, to pick up the phone, to go meet with people face to face, to build relationships with people in your database. So there's no marketing or advertising budget. It's through prospecting. And then you get the best buyer leads, listen closely, for free. Well, Brandon, how do you get the best buyer leads for free if I'm not buying them from Zillow? Aren't Zillow the best buyer leads? No. The best buyer leads is a seller's house who you put under contract who has to now buy a house. And how do you get those? Through listing property, through being a listing agent, okay? Being a listing agent, this is how you get the best buyers. You get buyers calling in on your signs. You get buyers inquiring on your listings. Especially in this seller's market, more and more buyers are going directly to the listing agent. So you want the best buyer leads for free? Go get listings, okay? So buyer agent does 35 transactions. You're splitting the commission with the buyer's agent 50-50, just like a partnership. They're gonna make an $125,000 income based on the production that you're giving them as their partner in your business. It's a nice living for somebody who can't generate their own business or wants to be part of a team and have someone like you lead them, mentor them, okay? So they do 35 deals, they make 125K, 125K comes off the $700,000 on top. Next, you're gonna have a licensed executive assistant. We're gonna talk about job responsibilities in just a second. A licensed executive assistant. They're gonna make somewhere around $60,000 per year. And then you have the full-time inside sales agent. They're also gonna make somewhere around $60,000 a year. Okay, so if you look at this financial model, you got 700K, you subtract out the 125 in buyer agent commission, you got $60,000 for your executive assistant, and then you take off another $60,000 on your ISA, leaves $450,000 in gross income, subtract out your 20% that you have to pay in taxes, leaves you with a net bottom line income of $364,000 in your pocket net bottom line. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a 52% margin on your business. That is a very, very healthy, sustainable, long-term business model where you stay in production, but here's the key thing. You're only focused on one thing. So let's jump into the job descriptions and this will make a lot of sense. So the buyer's agent is going to take on all buyer leads that come into your production-based business. All buyer leads, referrals, your friends and family, your sphere of influence, sellers that need to buy a house, sign calls, internet inquiries on your listing. All buyer leads go to the buyer's agent, period. There are no exceptions, okay? You want to keep your buyer partner fed. You want to keep your buyer partner happy. And this is just an example model, okay? Once you start doing 120, 150, 180 transactions off this model without adding any other team members, your buyer's agent, my full-time buyer partner right now, she's making over $250,000 a year from all of the buyer business I give her as somebody that I call my partner in my sales business, okay? The licensed EA, the licensed executive assistant, this is a key position, okay? They're gonna do all the listing coordination. You go take a listing, you get the contract signed, you bring it back to your assistant, they handle the entire process from a listing coordination standpoint. They're handling all of the transaction coordination. So once that property gets an accepted offer, and we start including the title company, other agents, other mortgage companies, they're gonna handle that entire process. Doesn't stop there. This is probably something different for you that I spend a lot of time coaching other agents on. That licensed executive assistant, this is why we want them to be licensed. We want them to do all of the offer negotiation with your seller. Well, wait a minute, Brandon, I've been doing that my whole career. Well, we're talking about running this model like a doctor, like a physician, where you can make the most amount of money with only focusing on one or two key activities. You're gonna see what that looks like in just a second. So the licensed executive assistant, just trust me when I give you this recommendation, they're presenting all the offers to the seller. They're negotiating the inspection and the appraisal. You're staying out of all of that, okay? Everyone's in their lane, and then they're managing the database, all the client events, the communication with folks in the database. Next is the ISA. The ISA's only function, their only function is to make outbound prospecting phone calls 5 to 6 hours per day. Their goal is to speak with 50 contacts, 50 people, 50 homeowners, set one quality listing appointment per day. That is their only role on the team, okay? They do this full time. It's what they love to do. It's what they're passionate about doing. And then this leaves you as the physician, as the leader of the group, a fully leveraged salesperson. The only thing you're going to be doing is going on listing appointments, getting that contract signed, and then following up with your sphere of influence, past client referral partner database. Those are the only two things that you do in this team. It's not going to happen overnight. You got to build up to this. But once you have this team fully leveraged, the only two things you do, just like the doctor, just like the lawyer, you're going to be making over 50% of the income, making a great living, and all you do is go on appointments that your ISA sets, you get the contract signed, you bring it back to your team so they can process the transaction, and then you're following up with your sphere of influence, past clients, and your referral partners to keep inbound referral business coming in as your ISA is looking out there for new business. It's a well-rounded business that continues to grow year after year. I'm going to leave you with the hiring recommendations. This is how you're going to go from a solo agent, where you're at today, to building this production, revenue-focused team model, okay? The first hire is a transaction coordinator, not on a salary. You're going to pay them per transaction, $300 to $400, okay? The goal is to develop that person into the full-time licensed executive assistant. But you won't be able to afford that probably at a day one, and so you want to find somebody, groom them, develop them into your full-time executive assistant. Hire number two is a showing agent. An agent to show homes for you, not a buyer's agent yet, someone just doing the showings for you. You're still writing the offers, okay? In phase two, you're still writing those offers. Then in phase three, you can transition that transaction coordinator into the full-time executive assistant. Phase four is hopefully transitioning the showing agent into the full-time buyer's agent. And then the final phase, phase five of this approach, is bringing on a full-time inside sales agent to leverage yourself out of the top of funnel lead generation prospecting activities. We give that to the ISA, and now all you're doing is going on listing appointments daily. You should have 4 or 5 solid listing appointments per week, okay? And you're following up with the database, continuing to build relationships with that database so the database continues to grow, and it continues to produce referral business as you continue to grow your career. Now, I know I throw a lot at you, so if you have questions, let me know beneath this video. And if you want me to coach you through this personally, I put a link beneath this video. Hit the link. You can schedule a coaching consultation and learn more about working with me and my team. We can help you scale your listing-based business, talk about how the program works, and then you decide if working with us right now makes any sense or not. But hopefully you got a lot of value from today's video. You really got your mind around what it means to have a team, so you don't go down the ego-based team model that so many agents do. They get totally frustrated. They get out of production just to burn the team and have to start all over again and again and again. This is unfortunately what I continue to see in the marketplace with agents that try to build this ego-based business model. For a lot of people, it just doesn't work. So let me know what questions you have, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you guys so much for your support.